To circle back to a story, take a quick look back at a story that we covered last week. And, it's so interesting, and we covered this, I think, for a couple of weeks, and that is the story of the Chinese election software company called Connec. It's K-O-N-N-E-C-H, Connec. And the gentleman that was running that, and I use the word gentleman rather loosely there, Eugene Yu, he was based out of Michigan, remember, and he was indicted in Los Angeles by the Los Angeles district attorney, who we've told you is a George Soros-funded district attorney, much like the state attorney we had here locally in Hillsborough County. Andrew Warren was funded by George Soros. And then thankfully DeSantis stepped in and said, hey, if you're not going to enforce the law, you can't be the top law enforcement officer, for the state in this county. You have to go. If you're not going to enforce the state's laws and you don't want to change them through the legislature, you can't just decide not to enforce the law when you're in the executive branch. That's what it means to faithfully execute the law. So got rid of Andrew Warren here locally, but over in L.A., of course, they don't have a governor in California who would do anything like that. Gavin Newsom, in fact, he loves these folks. He loves George Soros. So they've kept their DA in Los Angeles, George Gascon, and we said, I can't believe George Gascon and his office has indicted Eugene Yu, the head of Connec, because the allegations are that Connec is really a Chinese Communist Party affiliated company. And some really great reporters, one person in particular, it's an anonymous reporter, which some of them turn out the best stories, frankly. But that's Kanekoa the Great. You can find Kanekoa the Great. I'm not sure if it's a man or woman. It sounds like it'd be a man, Kanekoa, but who knows?
The Great, yeah.
The Great.
Must be a man.
Must be a man. That's right, Roxanne. Who else could it be, right? So, but who knows who this person is? But they've done some great reporting and some great fact-checking and digging into this Chinese company and some of the connections that they have with other Chinese Communist Party enterprises, some of the connections that they have with subsidiaries in China, the names of which are all very interesting. The details in this investigation are legion. There are so many details to dive into. But the big news coming out of L.A., now we told you, right? We said, gosh, why is George Gascon, why are the Marxist-Leninists, why are the communist revolutionaries investigating themselves? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And we said, watch for something to happen in that investigation. And lo and behold, folks, would you believe it? The day after the election, something happened. I mean, could anybody have predicted it quite so accurately? The day after the election, the Los Angeles County District Attorney decides to drop all the charges. They decided to drop all the charges. So was that just a made-for-TV? I mean, was that just made for TV? Was that just, hey, we're going to posture before the election like we're about to get tough on these Chinese communists invading our election? I mean, by the way, they were accused of having ported data for U.S. poll workers offshore to China. So they took all their personal data, all their private information, and put that on servers in China. And you don't think that the Chinese Communist Party keeps a copy of that? Of what goes onto those servers in China? Oh, you better believe it. So they had all the personal details for all the poll workers that were covered by this company's software, Connect software, which was called Poll Chief. Now, Poll Chief is active not just in Los Angeles and California, but also in Texas and other cities and counties around the country. So this is a pretty serious issue. You know, when we talked about this with Mike Beltran, he said, look, it's pretty simple, right? This is a simple rule we could establish here, and let's don't have Chinese Communist Party affiliated companies running our elections here in the United States. And that's something I would think most of us could agree with. I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty reasonable to me that we don't want to have, a foreign state running our elections, particularly one that is so diametrically opposed to our way of life, to our culture, one that doesn't believe in freedom of speech, one that, just like we told you over the last couple of weeks, they've got police stations all around the world to coerce their citizens that don't even live in China, and they do it by threatening family members, children, relatives back in China. Say, hey, you better come back to China to face the music, to receive your punishment, to get your re-education, comrade, or else we'll make sure your son or daughter never goes to a good school and never gets a good job, or we're going to take your parents and put them in a re-education camp. So this is what China is. That's what the country of China is. That's what the government of China is. This is not Chinese people. That is what the government of China is, the Chinese Communist Party. And we're letting them have direct access to our most secure election data. That makes no sense. Well, again, just look at the outcome. Big story ahead of the election. Oh, they're indicting him. Look, George Gascon is indicting him. The day after the election, they dropped the charges. The statement that they put out says that they were concerned, and this is a quote, about both the pace of the investigation and the potential bias in the presentation and investigation of the evidence. As a result, we've decided to ask the court to dismiss the current case and alert the public in order to ensure transparency. How about enforcing the law? I mean, there's nothing that requires transparency, right, during an investigation like this. They'd already decided to charge him. They'd already decided there was probable cause. The folks from True the Vote, Greg Phillips and Catherine Engelbrecht, they proved that this guy was doing something fishy with election data, that there was some real serious issues with the way the election data was being handled by CONEC. And now those charges have just been dropped, and it's all about transparency, folks. We're going to tell you about some more charges that were not enforced strictly in Los Angeles when we come back.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.